Armenta.
Here.
Hale. Here. Altman.
Here.
Candela. Kwan. Here. Lozada.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We now open the floor for public comments on agenda items. Do we have any public comments on agenda items this evening? Okay. Turning it over to presentations.
Well, our first recognition tonight is a student from West Oak Intermediate School, so I'm going to let Mr. Preble introduce Celeste Angarola and share why she's being recognized.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yes, and board. Tonight is a special night where we're going to recognize Celeste for some work that she has done, and I feel slightly bad because this is usually Mr. Williford's area, but now that we have taken over part of the building and part of our responsibilities, Celeste was in fifth grade, or is in fifth grade this year, and won a contest that we have. So Stevenson High School puts together a consortium each year for band and choir and fine arts, and they have students 5th through 8th grade compete to design posters for these events. And Celeste's poster was chosen for the band festival. So what we have tonight is we have a framed version for Celeste and her family to take home, and I will show here's what the poster looks like. So everybody can see that. So not only will we send this framed poster home with Celeste and her family tonight, I have several copies so that you can give them to your family and friends. And we have one copy that has remained in the office that will be framed and hung on the wall to display their other student artwork. So with that, I also have a certificate for Celeste to recognize her efforts in winning the award. So if I can invite Celeste and Dr. Sharma Lewis up. Congratulations. I'm going to have you hold that. And our certificate is a certificate of achievement. It certifies that Celeste Angarola is awarded this certificate of achievement for the Stevenson High School Consortium Band Festival artwork, presented this 18th day of February 2020, signed by myself and Dr. Sharma Lewis. So that is yours to have as well. And we could do a couple of pictures. Where would you like us?
You could stand wherever. I'm going to do portrait.
I should probably be in the back.
Probably.
I'll put this right here for now.
Perfect.
Congratulations. We'll do a quick picture and then I promise, as promised, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. You want to go by the West Oak?
Yeah, you can go to the mat. Just walk this way for a moment.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next presentation.
Is a year update of our goals and priorities, and just a reminder for the board, this is the goals that we've established at the beginning of the year. We're in our 5th year of the 5 goals that we have, but we select different targets and strategies each year based on what we accomplished from the year before. So some of them are ongoing and some of them are brand new. So this is going to be kind of a joint presentation that the district leadership team is going to present to you. And the second slide is just a key of all of the different acronyms, as you know, we all use throughout education. And most of you are probably familiar with them, but I think the newest ones are probably PLT, which is the professional learning teams. We've been doing a lot of work with our professional learning teams, and that's grade level teachers working together with their grade level cohorts, as well as content team leaders that are working together with their content team, the math teachers from the middle school, as well as the science teachers and social studies teachers and English language arts teachers. And I think the other term that's probably going to be new to some of you is the standards-based report card. I know that's something that we're starting working on in goal area 1. So Dr. Rock is going to speak a little bit about that, and also Spanish language arts, and then student learning objectives. So those are probably the 4 newest acronyms that we wanted to just share with you, because we're going to get more into them in our presentation. So I'm going to turn the first goal area over to Dr. Draka and Mr. Pratt.
So I'll just cover target 1 on our journey to creating a guaranteed and viable curriculum this year. Our foci was 3. We are in K through 2, we're focusing on the development of our Spanish language arts frameworks, which includes basically the scope and sequence of the curriculum. Then in kindergarten through 5th grade, we're focusing on the standards-based report card development for math, and then with the implementation in the 2021 school year. And then in 6th grade, we're working through the development of a new course called Communication Arts, which is there to help strengthen our literacy program. And so we're working through that curriculum development for the implementation, full implementation for next school year.
For target number 2 is speaking to our student learning objectives, or SLOs. These are units of study that we are putting together at each grade level for our units, or for each of the units that we do in our content areas. So at each school, what we're working on doing is in our professional learning teams, really using the data and the discussion about where our kids are, what they're learning, and shaping those SLOs in order to shape our individual instruction in the classroom. We have a hybrid of how we attack this. We develop new SLOs for content area, but we also go back and we revisit the SLOs that are already created to make sure we're tweaking those as well, because those will evolve over time. Target number 3 is review and refine the portrait of a graduate, skills and characteristics. Do we have that slide? Do we show that? They can speak to it, but basically, I don't know.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to use the computer.
Well, that's getting set up just to speak to the portrait of a graduate is basically what and who we want our students to be by the time they leave us in 8th grade. So, going along with our mission, we want them to be lifelong learners, engaged in their community, and ready for the world. And on this document, underneath each one of those headings, it's just bullet points. What does that look like, so that we can strive to provide these opportunities for our students to become these individuals as they leave us and go on to high school. The second slide is our portrait of a professional. I'm sorry. Did I go? I apologize. So I'm just speaking of the portrait of the graduate. But anyway, that's who we want our kids to be at the end of their time here in the district. I apologize for I got excited.
It is exciting. So I will jump in with number 2.
I'm done, thank you.
Okay, and our second goal is our professional excellence, and we've had the opportunity to work closely with our teachers for the last few years, and we've really developed a very collaborative relationship that is so important to all of us. And we do work with them to share a purpose and to share the goals for our students. We do that by providing professional learning teams, and our teachers have the very direct role of helping us plan what is happening in those teams, what data we're focusing on, what questions drive our decision making. So that's something we have continued to develop over the last several years, and this was a focus for us this year. We've also increased staff leadership in building operations. We depend more on our building leadership teams to help us with scheduling and help us make decisions. That was especially important as we transitioned to the new buildings and had to make some adjustments because of all the logistical changes. So they were so important with identifying what needed to be done. We wanted to make sure we're on the right track, so earlier in the year, all three buildings shared a staff support survey, and that support survey allowed us to make decisions in the building and strengthen our relationship with them, make minor adjustments and tweaks, but to make sure we were, again, transitioning in a positive way, making sure everyone was supported and continuing to build that relationship. We also really targeted and focused this year our professional development opportunities for our learning associates. This is something that we know is beneficial, and the feedback from them has been amazing. So during our late start days in the past, we had them kind of help with some clerical things or just assign them different tasks. And every one of our late start dates this year, we've been working on professional development opportunities for them, as well as the half days. Yesterday, and actually the last two half days, our social worker and occupational therapist has had all of the learning associates from the district working on behavioral strategies with students, or how to calm students down, or what strategies they need. So that's been outstanding. Our second goal is to align the district-wide procedures for special education programs. That's something we've been working on throughout the year. We began the year by creating an actual going back to the basics binder in August before we even came back to school. And the principals' leadership all joined our special education staff to walk through every procedure and to make sure everybody had it, to have plans in place and a scope and sequence for sharing that information. So that was really exciting. And we have also had a lot of ongoing professional development, especially related to legal aspects, and goal writing was a recent professional opportunity as well. And now the moment you've been waiting for, the portrait of a diamond professional. So what Kurt shared with you was the portrait of a graduate, and what we wanted our students to have before when they left us from District 76. The portrait of a professional is taking the ideas of what the adults are doing. So how do we embrace our students? How do we empower our students? And how do we get our students to excel every day? So we used our strong words from the district to make sure we had a vision for what each of those stood for that drives our teachers and how they impact our students. And I believe Dr. Sharma Lewis is going to our goal number 3.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add both to the, I know it says update, refine, and that was the exercise that we did with the Professional Advisory Council that took a period of 2 meetings that they had input in looking at our current mission statement and what are the skills that we're teaching and what has evolved in the past 2 or 3 years. So if the document looks the same, it is, but the details of it have been updated and changed to kind of reflect our current learning standards, and then also our current mission statement of the Embrace, Empower, Excel for our teachers, or our teaching professionals, I should say. So goal 3 is operational excellence, building upon what Julianne had shared with our teacher leaders and our professional learning teams. One of the things that we've worked really hard on, I think for the past several years, is really making sure that there's processes, procedures, and common planning time in place for all of our teachers to be able to work, meet, and collaborate together. And so pre-K through 8, the professional learning teams, when they meet, whether it's with a late start or a staff meeting or grade level teams or content teams, everything is driven by an agenda. So they have an agenda that they follow. They kind of review those with their principal as well as with Dr. Duraka and the instructional leadership team. And so everybody's kind of following a consistent format. It's really nice that now pre-K through 5 that we have consistent time and structures and protocols in place at both Diamond Lake as well as with West Oak Intermediate School. And I know Mr. Cunningham is working on revising and updating the schedule for next year so that 6th through 8th can also have the same. They do have a common plan, just making it consistent throughout. And again, they're all following the same agendas and protocols, so it's nice to do that and be able to give them those time. I know we've been talking about this for a couple of years of developing a 5-year strategic plan. Even though we have these goals and priorities in place, looking at something long-term and where we are and who we want to be. The board had participated, as you all know, in a leadership session with our attorney, a leadership retreat, I should say, back in December. Our second meeting is going to be in May. So from there, I think we should be able to decide kind of like our vision and mission of where we want to be in 5 years, and that'll establish an outline for the district leadership team. But one of the things that's new this year that I think is going to be really valuable, we had a retreat in August and we had one again in January, and I think the part that's been really valuable is to just continuously monitor our goals and our targets every 100 days. So the district leadership team is getting together kind of for a day-long review of how are we doing, and so we can have quick checkups rather than waiting, only just 2 times a year to see how we're doing. It's more of just if things are working, continue to do those. If things aren't working or if we haven't addressed them, to make sure that we do definitely address them and put interventions in place for any one of our goals that we have to address. And then the last area would support all stakeholders with the district transition. We put some quantitative measures in place of some surveys. So in the very beginning of the year in October, we sent out a staff support and success data, making sure that all staff members have what they need at a building level and at a district level, whether that's with resources or time or just whatever areas that they needed support with. And so those results were shared with the principals, and they're working with their building leadership team to kind of address areas of need and concern and then respond to any of those feedback, respond to any of the comments. We're going to redo that same, or re-administer that same survey in April of this year, and then present the results to you as a board so you can see how we did from the very beginning of the year to the end of the year with the transition and the reorganization of the district. This will be our 4th year giving out the staff culture and climate survey, and those will be giving out this week. Principals presented those at their staff meeting, and then we'll share the results with you in April, and it'll be really nice to see hopefully some trends moving in a positive and upward momentum. And then the parent engagement survey, how comfortable do parents feel and supported and welcome do they feel coming into our schools and to our district. That was given over parent-teacher conferences in November, and then we are compiling the data, or have compiled the data. Principals have looked at them and are kind of working on action plans to address any comments or areas of need with their building leadership teams, and then we're going to present those to you at the March board meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Myers?
All right, goal 4, financial excellence. The first target was to plan and budget our 5-year facility project. It's something we've worked on for several years. As we've received different buckets of money, we've been able to kind of narrow down our scope of projects. So we've been thankful with our last referendum. We accomplished every one of our priority projects that we've been looking to do. The only outstanding need has really been this roof at West Oak and then new classroom projects. So we've successfully received money for our debt certificate bond that we just issued. We got $3.6 million, and we've already gotten prices and contracts in place to do the old section of the West Oak roof. So this is going to really house all of our new equipment, new projects that we did with our referendum, and give us a 20 to 30-year roof. So we're very excited about doing that this summer. And then next summer, our plan is to upgrade our classrooms. So we're getting budgets in place, we're getting equipment in place with teacher surveys on upgrading the painting, lighting, flooring, technology, and the actual furniture itself. So we're really, that's the last puzzle piece that's missing for our 21st century classrooms, and we're incredibly excited about that. We've been able to pilot several rooms on the other side of the building that we've been receiving really good feedback on, and we're very excited to get new technology for these teachers. They're using some of the display boards that they've been using now have been a little outdated, so we've got some really modern platforms in the future. So as these projects come up and we have new pots of money, we're able to update those and prioritize them over 5 years. So we'll just continuously update and have that posted on our website. The district lunch service program is really fully underway. We've definitely had some hiccups in the road, but we're very pleased with how the program is shaping up in its first year. We just got a survey back with 6th through 8th grade students and got a lot of valuable data as far as how students feel about the program and especially what they would like to see improved. So as we transition into year 2, we have a lot of good feedback and some changes we have to make. So we know we really have the small condensed version of the program that we really want to see. So there's a lot of expansion we're hoping to have as staffing levels out and as this partnership kind of flourishes. So we're looking to bring more salad bars, and right now we only have one food choice for students, so we're hoping to expand that like we've had in the past, to have two choices. One goal of mine has been over the last few years to modernize our human resource and financial platform. So we use Skyward for all of our onboarding and human resources storage, database, and then how we process our bills, and I run my financial reports. So there's this new platform called Cumulative that Skyward's putting out, and I'm looking to be one of the early adopters in our area as far as transitioning to this platform. It's very exciting. It has a lot of dashboard type metrics that we can display for stakeholders. It's my goal to become more transparent, consistently find new resources that will allow us to do that. And one of the good options is to more accurately present our monthly financial reports to people so they can easily read and decipher it, besides just, hey, here's our annual financial report, here's one snapshot it's a year old. This will give us up-to-date information that I'm excited to migrate towards. The plan would be to roll that out in August 2020. And last is the transition to the Buildings and Grounds Department. We've gone through several transitions over the years, from Mr. Preble heading the department to really be overseeing a lot of components of it. Thankfully, we have Chris Thibodeau now that's a fantastic resource and a leader in that department. We're still a very small team with 2 maintenance personnel and myself. So Chris and I have a transition schedule in place for throughout each part of the year, who we're working with, who are, what the goals and strategies are for rolling those out. So as we get into winter, the snowplow services, we're continuously looking to bring that in-house so we have better control over it. And as we work with Citywide to get summer planning, that's on our schedule right now. So I'm really excited with Chris. He's constantly thriving for more and to take a bigger part of that department over. So it's going very well.
All right, so for Goal 5, Excellence in Communication, our first target focuses on empowering student voice and increasing ownership in their learning. In one area that we're seeing within the past year, and even more so this year, is a strong focus on student presentations yearly with their student-led conferences that we're going to experience stuff in the spring. And one updated iteration is the incorporation and creation of student digital portfolios. Last year, our middle school students all created student digital portfolios, and now our intermediate students have now created as well. And in the process of that, to be able to communicate even with our staff, and a glimpse of what student-led conferences look like, we even modeled and recorded what that process looks like, just to reflect and focus on that to increase and empower student voice and ownership in their learning for student-led conferences. Additionally, we have student leadership working in tandem with our school stakeholders, whether via event planning or building-based communication, and that happens in many different formats, whether through NJHS, student council, or student clubs, and they're various based off of each building that we're at. Regarding target number 2, encourage and support our professional online presence. It's one area that I continue to like to do mid-year checkup and see how it grows. Our Diamond Lake School District 76 as an educational brand continues to communicate our events, our experiences in many different publications, whether it's physical publications or online. Our web presence continues to grow, as I shared during our department, I think monthly updates on how our metrics look like on our web presence and how that looks, as well as our social media and our professional organizations that we're part of, sharing our online presence with our counterparts as well. Last but not least, increased parent involvement and partnerships in the special education process. This year, a new iteration was to have a brief survey after each IEP meeting, and that's been implemented at all 3 school buildings, and that information is very important to be able to kind of get bridge the gap on when it comes to communication through that process as well. So that's excellence of communication in very echoey effect. I'm excited.
Thank you. So as you can see, last Friday we celebrated our 100th day of school, so we're a little bit more than halfway through the school year, and I think we've accomplished a lot. And as you heard from most everyone on the district leadership team, everybody at this table has a role and a leadership part in overseeing these goals and priorities, and then working with staff and stakeholders to take ownership of that. So I'm really proud of our, consolidated and combined collective efforts, and we continue to focus, I think, on those, really 8 important things about having a healthy culture and climate overall. I think is our number 1 priority. Make sure that we have, rigorous teaching and learning standards and instructional practices, that we have ongoing, relevant and rigorous professional development. We provide special emotional supports for the whole child for all of our students, and also support for our staff, that we make our decisions based on data. We have a lot of data that we base it on, not just student assessment scores, but as you saw, like feedback from staff, feedback from parents, as well as the social media metrics that Mr. Hansen monitors. Having that ongoing and consistent communication, not only externally, but I think internally as well. Having safe and well-maintained facilities. As you know, we've made a huge investment from our community into our facilities, and we want to make sure that we continue to maintain those and keep them up. And then the foundation of it all is just practicing fiscal responsibility in all of our decision making, and make those decisions based on our goals and priorities. So again, thank you, district leadership team. You did a great job for all of your support and your leadership, and thank you, Board of Education, for all of your support and leadership in our efforts. And then we'd like to open up the floor for any questions or comments.
I think it's an excellent summary and tremendous accomplishments. And the only thing I would suggest as we're thinking about, finishing the year and towards the end of the year is, at least for me, for the goals or for the objectives that are quantifiable, if we can quantify certain things. And the reason is, without really being close to it, I don't know whether some things are a bigger deal than others, whether some things, took, 100 man hours or 100 meetings versus another thing was, handled in 1 meeting. So on a relative basis, while I'm sure it's all important, I don't have, it's hard to understand, where the emphasis was. And so understanding is all not quantifiable, but for those things that are, I think it would ensure that you're getting full credit for everything that you're doing.
Moving on to our business agenda. We have 3 items for action this evening. Items under the omnibus vote agenda are considered routine and/or non-controversial and will be approved by 1 motion. If anyone, board member, staff, administrator, or citizen wishes to have a separate vote on any item or items, that item or items will be pulled from the omnibus vote agenda and voted on separately. Be it resolved that the Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the omnibus vote agenda items A through E as listed. May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Lozada?
Yes.
Candela?
Yes.
Armenta?
Yes.
Hale?
Yes.
Altman?
Yes.
Juan? Yes. Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to personnel. Be it resolved, the Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the personnel items as depicted on the agenda. We have 3 new hires, a leave of absence, a retirement, and a resignation. May I have a motion to approve?
Move. Juan? Yes. Lozada?
Yes.
Armenta?
Yes.
Hale?
Yes.
Altman?
Yes.
Candela?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the release of executive session minutes. May I have a motion to release all closed session minutes from a board meeting held between July 2019 through December 2019. The list of executive session minutes is July 23rd, 2019, August 6th, 2019, August 20th, 2019, September 10th, 2019, September 24th, 2019, October 22nd, 2019, November 5th, 2019, November 19th, 2019, and December 17th, 2019. Can I have a motion to release?
Second.
Altman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Armenta?
Yes.
Hale?
Yes.
Candela?
Yes.
Juan? Yes. Lozada?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to board discussion. Okay, there are no items for board discussion this evening. We had one Freedom of Information request that was fulfilled, notices and communications.
So the first item is your typical board calendar, but as you can see from our last meeting, that we have updated and changed. So the board meeting that was scheduled for June 16th is now on June 23rd. So the board calendar reflects that change. And then just the CEDAL superintendent's update for February. I just included that there for your review.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on to public comments on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items this evening? Okay, moving on to others. We have an address update.
Yes, Lake County decided to mix things up a little bit and change our address, so that was great. We're no longer 500 Acorn Lane, we are now 26156 North Acorn Lane. And the rationale behind that is we were part of the dual address unincorporated Munda line. And so the 500 Acorn Lane in Libertyville went out this one and we get to switch our address. So it involves a lot of moving parts that we're still trying to break down right now, but it's effective immediately. We still have our forwarding address for a year, but it obviously involves changing our letterhead, changing our vendors, and a lot of other things. So,
Surprised it didn't happen earlier.
yeah, the rationale itself makes sense. It's confusion with local law enforcement, and I attached the memo here that they presented us, but it came as a little bit of a surprise. They voted on this in July. We weren't involved in the process at all. So there's a lot of houses that it affects, not as many businesses or school districts. We're probably the only one. So you'll see some information coming out, I think, on Friday about this that we'll send out to the families. We'll start advertising it to teachers and making that switch.
Is there do we have on the building a visible address sign?
We don't. It does mention that we need to have a visible address. I don't believe it's on our monument sign outside, so that's good.
Numbers to come up.
Yeah. At least it's not permanent. But
Project.
yeah, we have some time. I informed Lake County that there's a lot of cost in switching over materials right now, so we have some time to switch it over and use out our supplies. But yeah, any questions about that?
Okay.
500 was a nice round number, easy to remember.
I will never remember this number, I'm sure not. It'll only be 500
It was where
anymore.
the school is, so I think we're okay, right? Okay, then we will move into executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. Could I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
Lozada?
Yes.
Candela? Armenta?
Yes.
Hale?
Yes.
Altman?
Yes.
Quan? Yes. Sullivan?
Yes.